collecting other than principal amount. Okay, so to calculate interest, usually interest rate will be given, you can just directly assume that it's an annual interest rate. The annual interest rate is only useful if the note is 1 year long, meaning that earlier that example here, $1,000, you lend it out to another customer, to another company, and you want to collect the total amount of money a year later. Interest rate is 6%, you just use 6% times 1,000. This is an easy case. And what if the note is only half a year long, or 3 months, half a year long, or 3 months long, or 4 months long? In this case, we can't just directly times 1,000. We also have to time the fraction of time. Because the 6% is an annual interest rate, if the note is only 3 months old, you will not be collecting an annual interest from the debtor. You'll only be collecting 3 months worth of interest. Okay, so this second case here, if it's by month, let's assume in this case you borrow $2,000 to other company. Annual interest rate is 10%, but this month, this note is only 9 months long. Okay, the due date is 9 months later, so you will not be collecting 10% of $2,000, but only $150. 9 months over 12 months. Okay, a year there's 12 months. If the note is only 9 months long, then 9 over 12 times the annual interest rate will be the total interest amount that you'll be collecting from debtor. Okay, so basically each and every problem that you see, interest rate, you can just directly assume it's annual interest rate. That's the usual case in the real world too. Okay, so by number of months, 9 months over 12, 150 plus 2,000 will be the total maturity value that you'll be collecting from debtor, $2,150 later on when the entire note is due. In case the note is calculated by days, like the example we just talked about earlier, 60 day or 180 days, even though the 180 and 60 could be determined by months, but if it's specified on the note as days, then we would just directly use the number of days to calculate it. Okay, so if it tells you that it's a 180 note, don't try to translate that into 180 divided by 36 months. Don't do that. If the note is stated as 180 days, 30 days, just use the way to calculate interest for days. So in terms of days, we calculate it based on 360 days only. Okay, just to omit some of the decimal points. So usually for interest rate, if it's for a daily calculated period of notes interest, we just use the number of days over 360, not 365. Okay, so this case here, we assume that we're lending out money from our company to others, $5,000. Annual interest rate is 12%. Time period for this note is 60 days. 60 days over 360 will give you $100 of interest in total. So later when this note is due, you'll be getting 5,000 plus 100. This is just assumed, so we usually just use a usual case just to omit some of the decimal points, because if it's over 365, it could be messy when we calculate interest. So usually the case would be just using 360. Okay. All right, we're going over these because later on when we talk about different cases of notes, when we mention issuing the notes, collecting interest, accruing interest, we assume that you know how to calculate all these. Okay, so once you're given the number of principal amount interest rate, you have to automatically know how to calculate annual interest rate or monthly interest rate or daily interest rate.